Easy Explain Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus by Ludwig Wittgenstein. Introduction and overview. So, Ludwig Wittgenstein in the English, or Ludwig Wittgenstein with more of a German pronunciation, was born in Vienna, Austria in 1889 and died in Cambridge, England in 1951. He was born to very wealthy parents. He was the youngest of 8 children, and he was homeschooled with them until he was 14. So after homeschooling, right, as in Austria, you're moving on to your higher education, a little bit differently than you do in America, especially at the time. He began by on a path towards studying aeronautical and mechanical engineering. From there, as his interests develop, as he matures, as he learns more and more, he becomes more interested in mathematics and logic, and actually starts studying under a pretty well-known philosopher known as Gottlob Frege. So that was his introduction to philosophy. It was under Frege, actually. So, Wittgenstein really starts to come up with his own thoughts, his own works. Frege's like, you know what? I actually can't be the proper mentor and tutor that you need. He recommends that Wittgenstein go study up at Cambridge under Bertrand Russell. And Frege saw that what Wittgenstein wanted to do and where he was moving was more in line with the work that Russell was doing in Cambridge. So they worked that out. But unfortunately, at the time, World War I was raging. Wittgenstein actually became a prisoner of war in World War I. When he got out, he gave away his inheritance. Again, he was born to very wealthy parents. He gave that away. He went to teach in schools. And in that time, following his prisoner status in World War I, that's also when he published the Tractatus. That was first released in German in 1921 and then translated to English in 1922. So we're talking the early 1920s. And it's pretty much immediately successful in the world of philosophy. This gets him out of the school teacher classrooms, brings him back to Cambridge, where he teaches at that level now, right? The professor level, the collegiate level. From 1937 to 1947, he's starting to get pretty sick. He actually has cancer and he ends up dying of cancer in 1951. It's not until 1953, 2 years after his death, that we're going through his records, his works. We edit together the Philosophical Investigations, his second largest published work. This one is after he passes away. It's also very different than the Tractatus. We're just going to focus on the Tractatus here for now, though. So back to this work. It's largely described as being in a tree structure. It's a very unique structure. It's kind of hard to follow. It's one of the things that makes this work kind of challenging and rather dense. Wittgenstein himself critiqued it as being a book of nonsense. Other critics have critiqued it in the same way, saying it's very nonsensical, hard to follow. At the same time, there's a lot of gems in it and a lot of value, a lot of worth. I do think there are some really meaningful takeaways, especially in the development of human thought. So here's the overarching structure. It's 7 main propositions. There's a little brief preface, but here are the 7. So the first part of the book is Wittgenstein working through that the world is everything that is the case. And there's a lot of sub-propositions that we go here as well. The second one is what is the case, a fact, is the obtaining of states of things. The third one, proposition, he says a logical picture of facts is a thought. The fourth one, a thought is a senseful proposition, so not nonsense. The fifth one, a proposition is a truth function of elementary propositions. Starting to get into the weeds here a bit. Sixth proposition, the general form of a truth function is the general form of a proposition. Again, these make a lot more sense when you can actually go through his sub-propositions. And finally, the mic drop, the 7th proposition, Wittgenstein says, of what one cannot speak, about that one must be silent. And just a note on how we're going to approach this work, how we're going to approach this book. So you can really get lost in the symbolic logic and the logical system, this tree structure, all the sub-propositions. That gets really tough and very nitty-gritty, very hard to follow. Instead, we're going to focus on the deeper philosophical concepts, the bigger picture things, the large concepts that are a little more abstract and a little more what we would generally think of as philosophy instead of the stricter logic side of things. And because of that, a lot of the focus of the upcoming videos, we will rarely be moving beyond the second level of the tree structure, right? So that looks like x.x or n.n, right? 7.1, 7.2, those don't exist, but just as an example, we will not be moving to 7.15, 7.2457, right? There's propositions to that degree do exist in this work, but we will very rarely be looking at those just to try to simplify it and zoom in on some of the things I'd rather focus on. But as a general overview for now, hope this helps.